Hey, good morning, everyone. So, welcome to the weekly partner call. So, what we'll be doing today is again going over basically the list of changes that we made this week. And as basically I announced last week, we'll basically talk about the various features that we're basically going to be working on for this month's release and basically solicit feedback from all of you. And then based on the feedback, we will basically take it back and basically push it into development and bring it back to you folks in the end of this month to basically kind of do a final checkup before we roll it out in the month of November. So very quickly, here is basically kind of what I'm just going to share my screen and basically kind of get this started off. So, okay, perfect. So here we are. Just quickly, basically some updates that we've been doing last week. One is essentially the Exchange zero-day vulnerability detector is now live. So it's actually detecting those vulnerabilities and basically pushing it back into. It is basically deployed for the external scan as well as for the internal scan, and you will be able to see these in the new scans that are coming out. The second is basically like there are additional ports for the scan profile. These will be deployed in this Friday's push to the build. So this was a feature that we discussed last week when Chris Lewis said that we want to be able to choose one of the profiles and then add a couple of ports to it. So that feature basically is going live. So now, what are the features that we're going to be working on for this month's release, right? So we basically kind of are breaking it down into multiple sections. The first essentially is what we got as feedback from Dennis, and we're basically kind of taking this as a complete feature and getting this completed, which is basically dashboard creation and sharing. So the ability to create any sort of dashboard and share a link that will open without any username and password, right? And this link is basically dynamically created. It will be in the lines of how we do this with Google Docs or with Google sharing or basically with Microsoft sharing. So you can just create a link. This link will be a unique link and anyone with the link can view the data. And we're basically making sure that the URL will not be guessable. And right now we will place a restriction saying that the URL will expire after 30 days. And that is something that we can choose to basically make it as a parameter. But right now, just for security reasons, we thought beyond 30 days, nobody's going to look at the data and probably you have a new data set to send by that time. Second is basically we want to be able to define in the dashboard itself saying that something is a default dashboard. This was feedback that came last week. So you can define for each user and at a company level, what will be the default dashboards that you'll see. So this essentially is one feature set that we're going to like comprehensively work on and make sure that this is basically provided to everyone in a clean fashion. Second, essentially, we walked through this entire piece and we basically thought that we should do a complete compliance rehaul. And one of the reasons for why we are basically working on this is also the fact that when basically we started working on compliance, we basically saw that we went through our own compliance checks, right? So we have basically completed our SOC 2. We are almost done with all the SOC 2 requirements. And we also basically did GDPR compliance. So as we went through that process, we essentially saw that while we have a bunch of automated checks and we basically show something on the dashboard, it is basically not exactly what is required for somebody who needs to achieve compliance. So we basically took the base as CIS and we just mapped a set of controls and basically we're presenting a set of controls. But we basically are going to work on this completely in terms of rehauling it because we have the data, but I think what we're doing is not representing the data correctly. So we build compliance with CIS as the base and we basically are just mapping those CIS compliances to various standards and generating reports. But what we're going to be able to do going forward is you can redefine what is basically a compliance that is relevant to you. So for example, if you're in Australia, you basically care only about the essential 8 and you don't care about the other compliances. So you can essentially define that these are the compliances that I'm interested in and all other compliances are irrelevant to me. And you can also define for a specific company, which compliances are you interested in. So this way, what happens is it becomes a complete uh, a kind of thing where we don't run all the compliances for you, we just run what is relevant for you. Third, generate reports that align with the compliance, specific compliance, and have the reports that will be auditor friendly. So the whole point of basically generating compliances at the end of the day to deliver it to an auditor, right? So how do we make it in a fashion where auditors can accept it? And there are a lot of tools which have done this, and we've kind of looked through those tools, and then remove all the clutter, improve reporting, and basically break out reporting by each compliance. And again, just as we've done with vulnerability, we can basically have the ability to put exceptions and upload data corresponding to those exceptions so that basically the compliance essentially is clean. And last but not the least, we have a weakness right now with the Mac and Linux compliance. So we want to basically bring all of those assets back into along with Windows compliance checks. So this is essentially part 2 of the entire thing, which is the compliance recall. Third, on the patching, we basically have most of this ready right now, and we basically are in the testing mode. So in patching, when we introduced patching almost like 6 to 7 months ago, we basically were not sure in which direction it would go. But as we are seeing more and more partners begin to use it, and basically it has become a little bit more mainstream and people are basically liking this feature. One of the things that has been asked by a lot of partners, again, as you all know, we've separated the concerns of patching and basically the vulnerability management. Now, what we are doing with patching is we are defining what is called an auto patching policy, where you can essentially say that I want to choose these set of applications that can be auto patched, and I want it to be auto patched. I don't want to deal with it. Then you can basically define a set of applications that you don't want to auto patch. So examples of that could be like Java or some of those applications that you basically are not sure what impact it could have. Third is that we have a complete ability for us to put an audit trail on the ticket so that you can put time on that particular ticket. Then we will have a complete patching report that shows patches that were updated, whether automatically or manually, based on a particular time frame. And last but not the least, we are also going to give you the ability to define tags to prevent certain assets from being patched automatically. So for example, you may say that these two are critical servers. So you may say that patch all of the servers which are there for these applications, but do not touch the critical servers. So in that case, it will not patch those systems, it will patch all of the other systems. So this is essentially what is being worked on by our team from a patching perspective. The fourth area that we are basically focusing on this month is Azure AD reporting, where we will be essentially working on better reports from Azure AD, more or deeper audit information from Azure AD. Whatever we're getting now, we're basically putting it in there, but we basically want to bring more auditable information from there. And we're going to be doing complete detailed Office 365 and SharePoint scans basically for this month. We will get into other scans basically as we progress towards the next month. So, but this will be better than what it is right now, but this is not the end state for this particular piece. But we basically hope to give a significant boost to this so that basically we can progress. As you can see the changes, you can let us know what are the other changes that you would need so that we can progress across that. The other fixes that we essentially plan to complete this month is essentially the UI UX fixes for the assets table that Dennis had pointed out last week. So we are making those changes and basically getting those in there. The ability to basically give yourself a white label domain and give yourself complete customizations. This is another piece we're working. So the way we are working on this is to basically create a reverse proxy configuration, which then basically is put into our system. So we are working through some of the challenges, especially with cross-domain, etc. And once we do that, we will be able to white label your domain with your own URL. And then one of the discussions that came up last week, which I think Dennis brought out and a lot of you had this thing, the ability to define a custom risk score metric, which is today we provide letter grades, but a few of you felt that we should basically have different kind of grades like a score or basically stars. So essentially, we will provide this as multiple options, and you can choose what you want to see. And based on that, we will essentially put this together. By default, we'll continue with the current letter grade, but you can essentially choose what type of visualization you want. And this visualization will basically take effect in the user interface as well as when it is represented in the reports and all of those places. So that we will take care of. And one of the features that was asked for is basically the multiple tag deletes that we have taken it as a bug fix, but we'll basically get it done earlier. But I just wanted to put it out there that this is essentially what we plan to do. So this is basically kind of the stuff that we've taken on for this month to basically close out and basically make sure that it becomes clean. I think we're going to be spending most of the time in this compliance rehaul, but the other pieces also will basically kind of be done fairly quickly. Honestly speaking, we've kept it a little light at this particular point of time for this month because A, this is the first month when we are basically doing this particular cycle. B, we basically want to make sure that all of the items that we commit to you today are basically available in the next, after 3 weeks when we come back to you, we'll be able to show all of them to you. And C, basically, we set up this timeline and we are basically we can do extra, but we basically at least whatever we commit to basically is 100% done. So this is essentially what we wanted to kind of share as the plan for this month. So right now, I'm just looking for any feedback from all of you folks saying that whether something should be added, removed, or you basically think we need to focus on something which basically we're missing. I'm absolutely happy to take those into consideration. So Dennis, this for external scan, will you be able to specify just specific ports to scan? This is already available. So you can just create a custom profile and you can just basically add whatever specific ports you want. And this today also it's available. In fact, you have the ability to define top 100, top 200 also in that, or specific ports as a port numbers, just comma separated port numbers.
I had a question. This is Cody from Marco.
Yep.
I was curious at some point if we'll have the ability to enforce that a user is only able to log in with SSO, not locally or with SSO.
We can provide that enforcement. The only reason we keep that is on a particular day, say for example, the SSO breaks down, then there will be no way for you to get into the tool, right? So that's the only reason we basically allow you to keep one local account. So what we can essentially do is that, yeah.
Yep. And with ours, we have some customers logging in as well, but what would be nice is the ability to choose which users it's enforced on so that our staff that are admins in the platform could only get in with that SSO connection. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. So I will essentially add that to the list where for each user, you will be defining whether they can log in through SSO or basically using the local login. And if they are basically supposed to log in through SSO, they will never be able to use the local login.
Yep, that's exactly what we're looking for.
Yep, I will add this to the list.
Awesome, much appreciated.
Just to expand a little bit on Cody's, if once we get to that state, is there going to be the ability to have multiple SSOs tied so that if the client wants to do the same thing, that they could do that? Maybe an item to add onto the roadmap.
So could you explain, so is it like you're saying that you have a tenant in Office 365 and your customer's tenant in Office 365, and these are two different tenants. So you want to be able to add both of them as identity providers. Is that the requirement?
Correct. Yep.
Yep, that is possible today. So I will basically get this verified and tested, but technically this is possible today.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Shiva.
So anybody else, anything that we might be missing, anything that you think we should be covering in this month? Any? Yes, Craig. So in fact, we basically going to have have a choice of multiple scoop.sh or chocolatey, and basically we also got from Tim a question of saying that why not Winget. So rather than essentially enforcing that we shall use only this, we'll give you the choice of basically choosing whichever package manager you want to use, but we will basically maintain all of those package managers and this thing. So that's what we're doing. So Craig, that will essentially be part of this patching release, the auto patch release. This will be released as part of that. So Simon, do we have an ETA for the release of the new UI? There are certain changes that are occurring in the company, Simon. So once we have those changes complete, as part of that, we will be releasing this new UI. So right now, I can't give you an exact ETA, but I can tell you that it's very likely basically in the early half of November that you will essentially see the new UI. So that's perfect. So if there are no more requirements and you folks are happy with this, so we basically are going to be kicking off the True Security series starting next week, and we're going to basically start with basically understanding layers of security and what is zero trust security and how does it basically fit into the world of security. And we're going to basically deal with like why do people talk about zero trust security? Is it something new? And what basically beyond vendors, what does zero trust security essentially mean? So we're going to cover it from end to end, from identity all the way to basically what does a zero trust mean at a firewall layer? What does zero trust mean at a workstation level? So we'll just go through all of those to essentially make sure that we understand what does zero trust essentially mean. It's a buzzword that's been going on for some time. So that's basically going to be the first topic that we're going to be dealing with next week. So all of you can come on in and basically we can basically have a good discussion on it. And I believe that a lot of you in this group basically have probably much better ideas than we would have. But once we discuss this, then basically as a group, we all will be more better informed than anything else. So will the new UI still include the ability to create custom searches, custom visualizations? Yes, Dennis, absolutely. And we'll in fact have the ability for you to create the one thing that we are doing with the new UI is basically focusing heavily on the report builder, because I believe that if we basically get that right, then a lot of the issues that we have right now in terms of how things look can be solved with that. So you will have the ability to kind of build your own user interface for all types of visualizations. Plus, you can do it with, we'll also give you the option to do this with Kibana. So we won't take anything away. We are just adding more features to the entire piece. Yes, that's right, Dennis. Everybody, yeah, because everybody has their own business and they want things to look a little different from what it looks others, it looks for others, right? So we understand that requirement, and that's where we're basically bringing this. And the more important thing is that we're also basically kind of working with certain external agencies to build up certain themes and templates so that we can incorporate those over here. Because again, everybody cannot sit and basically hire a UI designer. So we are essentially bringing in a bunch of themes and templates. We probably will have start with around 100 themes and templates, which we'll be putting into the system. But later, we'll essentially kind of expand that to probably 1,000 or 2,000 templates that you can choose from. So it's almost, think of it like in Word, you basically don't start with you can start with a plain document, but then most of the time you basically pick up some sort of a template and with online templates, etc., and then fill up the structure. So that's essentially kind of the route that we're taking with this entire piece. Thanks, Dennis. Yes, that's true, Dennis. Like this crystal reports, and I think a lot of the people still miss crystal reports nowadays. So, but we're trying to create a HTML5 version of it, which is basically more appealing. So, Dennis, you're mentally young, so you don't need to worry about that. Perfect. So if there is basically nothing else, then what I will do is basically give back everyone 30 minutes of their day. Thank you all for your feedback. We are basically going to be working on this. And as I said, in the fourth week, we will essentially come back with updates and basically show you a demonstration of all these features. And Mark, we've taken these two requirements that you've provided to us, and we will basically close it. Hey, Jerry, I heard that Tampa is much better, but I think some areas down south of Florida, especially Fort Myers and etc., Naples, are really having problems. So, Jerry, we walked through some of the requirements. If you have anything that you had wanted to add to this month's kind of set of requirements, basically, we'll be happy to. And if you want a quick recap, I can basically just do a quick recap for you. So the things that our team is going to work on this week is dashboard sharing, ability to create a dashboard, create a unique link, and then very similar to Google Docs. The second thing that we're going to be doing is basically a complete rehaul of compliance, basically because we are going to kind of create more the ability for you to define what compliances are impactful for a particular customer, that is what apply to a particular customer, and then generate reports which are more customized to that sort of compliance. And this is something which we have driven from our own experience of doing some of these compliance checks. Auto patching, where basically you can define auto patching policies, where you can define which applications you want to patch, you don't want to patch, and then you have the ability to basically kind of keep an audit trail, and then patching report to basically show these timeframes. Azure Ready reporting, much better reports, more audit information, and more detailed Office 365 and SharePoint scans. And this is only the initial version, and we'll basically be expanding it later. And of course, the other fixes, which is UI UX fixes for asset tables, white label domains, ability to define custom score metrics because somebody wants letters, somebody wants stars, somebody wants scores, and multiple tag deletion. And we also added on one more thing, which was basically the ability to restrict certain users to log in only through SSO or through a local login. So Jerry, yes, it's available to you. You can actually see the Azure AD reports in your instance. Perfect. So thank you all, and you folks have a great day and a week ahead. And I thank you all for all the feedback, and let us know basically if there is anything else that we can do to improve. We're always here to basically take that feedback.
Okay, thank you, everyone.